Hi, this is Coffee Company, and today we are going to sit down with Sadie Samuels. She's going to be our newest fearless female. Sadie is a fisherman from Maine, and we have a few questions for her. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Having me.
So you are a fisherman.
Yep, I've been a commercial lobster fisherman in the state of Maine for, well, pretty much my whole life, but I've had a license since I was 7, and I turned 30 last week, so for a while.
Quite a while then. And what do you fish for?
Lobster. Mostly lobster, and then in spring I also fish for halibut.
Oh, nice. How did you get into this?
So I honestly am pretty lucky, I think, because my dad is a commercial fisherman. So as a little kid, I was able to kind of be like, what are you doing? What is that? Can I come along? Like, what's going on over there? So, and he was always super excited to like, oh, sure, whatever. And then he just, basically the way he puts it is that I just never left him alone. And it evolved into me kind of having to do my own thing. Because the way it works here is each lobster boat can only have the X amount of tags. So once I started want to get my own tags, my dad either had to give up some of his or tell me to get my own boat. So that's pretty.
So that's what you did? You got your own boat?
I got my own boat when I was 14 and then just never stopped.
What did it take to do that? I mean, were you saving your pennies? Did you take out a loan?
I pretty much have worked every summer since I was 7, which is weird, but not really weird when it comes to like the fishing industry or the fishing community, because it's a lot expensive and stuff like that. So with my first couple traps I ever had, I got my first $100 check when I was 7, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can buy that Barbie that just came out. Hell yes, I'm going to continue to do this.
Yeah.
Like I did, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I could get my own boat if I keep doing this. I love driving the boat. I want to be a captain. I think that's what I want to be. I love driving the boat. So yeah, so I pretty much just, anytime anyone who would take me out, anytime my dad needed help, anybody, I would go and basically save my pennies, and I babysat. I did all the things. I ended up getting my first it was a really small outboard, which is hilarious because I ended up selling it back to the guy that I bought it from, and now his granddaughter runs the same boat that I was fishing as my first boat, which is just like such a beautiful full circle thing.
Oh, that's amazing.
But, I mean, she's the cutest person ever too. It's still surprising sometimes to see young girls get into it out here, but there is more and more of it, and I kind of feel like I got to be part of that.
That's awesome. Was it well accepted when you were, pioneering this, or did you get a little flack?
Well, the fishing community is pretty salty, I guess is the best way to put it.
No pun intended.
When I was a little kid, I grew up around some salty guys, so I learned to get it back and all this stuff. I think a lot of them didn't believe me that I wanted to do it as bad as I said I did. But that's the other thing about the industry that I really like, and as a woman I really like, is, there's plenty of people saying things, but it's so much more about what you actually do. Yes. And for me, it kept showing up. I kept giving them shit back. I kept being like, hey, anyone who needs help, let me know. Like, I was just really like there and eager to do it. I did a million jobs unpaid. I did, just pretty much anything I could. So it got to a certain point where they're like, she's not going anywhere. Like, and none of our kids have boats, and now she's got her own boat. Oh, and now she's got all these traps. Oh, and now she's, now I have a full boat and a full license and full traps. But it's funny because now everyone treats me pretty good. They still give me like the enough shit to make me feel like they still care, but
just show up every day and give them what you got.
If I listen to what everyone ever told me about, like, oh, get a real job, oh, like, well, my daughter's doing this. Why aren't you doing that? Now, you know, there's like 10, 15 years of that. And now all of a sudden everyone's like, I know her. I know a woman who's a boat captain. I'm like, yeah, well, I told you I was going to do it when I was 10. I meant it.
Get a real job. I love that. I love the perception that, you know, if you're doing something that you enjoy and it's not, you know, a typical 9 to 5 and you didn't have to get a degree for it, that it's just not a real job. I'll never quite understand that. So
my job and like a lot of them, so
all of that cut out.
Sorry. No, I just like a lot of the people who say that to me are the people who complain to me about their own jobs all the time. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
Well,
it's almost like you're supposed to be miserable. So you have a lobster roll business as well. Can you tell me about that?
yeah. So the way my actual lobstering business started was through a student license because I started so young. So because of that, you're not allowed to, well, it's not that you're not allowed to, it's just they start you out with a low amount of traps. Mm-hmm. The limit, so every year you can buy another 100 tags, but so it takes years to get up to the full amount. And I knew it's really what I wanted to be doing. So there was like this random opportunity where a farmer's market wanted lobsters to be sold there. And they got in touch with me. And so I started doing that 6 or 7 years ago, I guess. I think 7 years now. And I did live lobsters at one market. The next market, I started doing live lobsters. And then the owner of the market was like, have you ever thought of doing lobster rolls? And I was like, well, it's funny you say that because I have this thing going, this thing I've been saying for about my whole entire life where anytime my friends and I go anywhere and people get lobster rolls, I'll like try it. And I'm like, that's okay. But you know what? I should probably make lobster rolls for people. I think I was like, I don't know. And so the opportunity came up and I was like, well, that's funny. I've actually been saying this for years. I guess I should go for it. So, and because my lobstering wasn't full time at the time, I had extra time. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a family that fishermen, so it's like workaholic. Like you wake up at 4 a.m. and you work from sunrise to sunset. So sitting around, I was like, I could be doing something. So I started doing that, and it really just took off. I started doing just Saturdays at the farmer's market, and then I've done full seasons of full food cart. And the year before that was like a couple week test run. But this was our second full season, and this year I won 3rd place in the Down East Lobster Roll competition.
Nice.
And had cool things happen, even with all the struggles. It's just been really funny because I'm like, how am I supposed to be lobstering full time and running a food cart now full time? Because they basically came to full time at the same time. Mm.
When is lobster season?
So lobster season goes from in the state of Maine, you can lobster year round.
Okay.
So harbor and each island kind of have it differently. Like my harbor freezes over. So if you want to fish year round, you have to go get into a different harbor, or like me and most of the people pull the boat out and wait until the ice melts. Mm-hmm. So and goes from about late April, I'll start doing gear work, getting my boat ready, getting all that in the water, and then I'll pretty much fish until like early December.
Okay.
Weather dependent.
Very nice. Now, where in Maine are you?
So I am in like mid-coast Maine.
Okay.
I fish my food cart and all of that is in Belfast, which are about 20 minutes apart.
Okay. I'm familiar with like the Algonquin Wells area, and I've gone as far up as Acadia National Park, but I'm not familiar with that particular area.
I mean, basically.
You're in between those two? Yeah, Maine is absolutely gorgeous, and I love lobsters so much. Funny story, my husband and I, 5 or 6 years ago, we were child-free for the weekend, which doesn't happen very often, and we'd gone to maybe Vermont for a craft fair. I think we drove about an hour and a half there, and we walked the whole craft fair in 15, 20 minutes. And we kind of looked at each other and we were like, now what? Like a whole kid-free weekend. So we ended up just driving to Maine on a whim with the clothes on our backs. And, we stopped at CVS and we got contact solution and deodorant and toothbrushes and toothpaste. And, he was like, how much money do you have on you? Not much. How much money do you have on you? And we had just enough for a hotel, gas, and we went to the Algonquin Lobster Pound. Now, my husband does not like lobster. He's straight up steak and potatoes. He doesn't eat anything that comes out of the water. And I was so thrilled to point at the lobster that I want. And he ended up having to walk out of the restaurant because the smell of lobster everywhere and me just up to my elbows in lobster and butter with the bib and dripping, and I don't care. I'm just in heaven, sucking the the meat out of the legs. He had to get up and walk away. And he has not volunteered to go back to Maine since.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so another question. So how do you tag lobster? I'm familiar with, deer hunting and tags and things like that. Are the tags the bands that are on them, or how does that work? Is it not really a tag?
Like a tag, like a deer tag. It's more
a count.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of odd. So the more I've learned about other fisheries, the more I guess I've learned that ours is kind of odd. We just have a size limit. So it's highly regulated, whether or not you can keep a female. If she has eggs or a V-notch, you can't keep her. If there's a V-notch on, she doesn't even have to have eggs on her. If it's a female with a V-notch on a specific fin, you cannot keep it.
Okay.
You will be fine. Same thing with undersized or oversized lobsters. But you can bring in as many as you possibly can that fit within the required size.
Okay. Interesting.
Which I guess is pretty different than other places that do more of a quota system. Mm-hmm. So you hit done. But for us, it's just we really do have one of the most sustainable fisheries on the planet. There are lobsters everywhere. We throw back more lobsters than we keep.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. Is it slim picking these days? Are you seeing any kind of ebb or flow in lobster population with some of the changes that are happening with the climate and pollution and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, it's really obvious that things are warming and changing. But it's also pretty interesting. We catch more lobsters now than when my dad was my age fishing.
Really?
So, I don't know. It's really interesting. I've been told a ton of times throughout my lifetime that in 3 years there's going to be no more lobsters and you're going to have to figure out something to do. But that's never really true. And a lot of fishermen think that it really goes in cycles, which it does. And I definitely think that global warming and everything are kind of accelerating certain things and whatnot, but we're still our catch is down this year, but we're still catching a lot of lobsters.
Okay.
I don't really don't know. I think the smartest thing I was ever told by an old timer was the more I fish, the less I know. And every year I'm like, you know what? You really have.
That's interesting. What are some of the things that inspire you? What keeps you going? What makes you want to, put your head down, dig your heels in, and get it all done?
I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest thing is that I really like being my own boss. Mm-hmm. I really hate, but for the most part, I love it. It's really cool that my whole entire business is literally my dream. It was just little dreams that I had of my own that I'm like, hey, maybe I can. And, there's been plenty of kicks in the teeth for no better term. that's kind of what makes it fun, is like all the challenges, all the things. It's like you're working towards your own goal and your own dream. And that's like lobstering. I've been doing it my whole life, and I'm still learning something new every single day. I mean, there's constantly, I know maybe, like, I can keep my engine running and I can take care of my engine and my boat, but like, I couldn't rebuild my boat. I couldn't rebuild an engine. Like, every day I'm learning, and that's just like really fun.
What are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome to get where you are? Yeah. This is where we inspire people. This is where it's like, you know what, this was really hard and I dug in and I did it anyway.
Well, I don't know. I feel like life is just tough for everybody. So I've definitely had my own just pretty gut-wrenching struggles that I've had to kind of figure out. And a lot of them had a lot more to do with life than necessarily anything like that. But I do feel like because of how passionate I am about what I do, it's like kind of always kept me with an even keel. Mm-hmm. But my mom died when I was 19, when I was in college, and that was just like literally sent my whole life for a whirlwind.
I can't imagine.
Like one of those things where it's like, it's life, but it really sucks and just kind of makes you feel lost.
Yeah. But
I don't know. I mean, all of those things are what make you prove yourself that, like, hey, I can do this. Hey, I'm capable. Like I literally will look at a huge challenge and be like, why not me? Which is crazy. Like, some of my friends are like, you are crazy. But it's just, I think it's just a good attitude to have in life. But also, I think the best thing for me was knowing that all of the struggles I've had aren't, as much as it feels so unique to me and is super unique to me, it's like every successful, wonderful person, every cool person I know, every person I like to be around has had struggles. That's what makes them, like, just someone that, like, is inspiring. So, I don't know. Definitely, like, had my issue, like, being depressed about things or, like, feeling, and fishing is really hard. There's a lot of times where, especially as a girl, maybe, like, the physical part, sometimes I feel like I can't match up to a guy in the same exact way. But then when I use my brain more and realize that I don't have to do it the exact same way to get the same result, mm-hmm. like, things, it makes things easier. It's like sometimes the walls in our way are our own making, you know what I mean? So I just tried really hard to kind of keep myself in a mindset of, like, everything's a good challenge. Like, I can learn something from this, and even if it doesn't end where I want it to end, I'll still have learned something that I can use and, like, move forward with. And
that sounds like a fantastic quote. We're gonna definitely quote you on that one. I love that.
That sounds it.
So what kinds of reactions do you get from people that when you're first meeting them and you tell them what it is that you do?
It used to be pretty much that every single person was like, no, no, no. Like, literally anyone I talked to, especially at the farmer's market, which is kind of why I enjoyed doing that. I realized I happened to be one of the first A, fishermen people had ever met, B,
okay.
So, like, I'd be telling someone, oh, yes, like, I caught this lobster this morning. I caught it yesterday. That's how fresh this is. I can guarantee it. Because they always come up and they're like, well, how do you know? How do you know that this is fresh? I'm like, well, I caught it. Oh, you mean your boyfriend caught it? Oh, you mean even when I'm on my boat, it used to bother me a lot more when I was, like, 10 years ago. But now it's kind of funny. Now I'm just, you could use an education. And I guess I will just show you, like, your opinion doesn't matter. I'm going to do it. And now people have, like, I have talked to quite a few people, and I've gotten to be part of some really cool projects that have made it, the face of fish a little bit different. Having, like, a girl fisher, girl holding fish or whatever. Yeah, sorry, I feel like I got lost track of the, the question.
No, that's fine. It's great. So what would you say at this point would be your shining moment, biggest accomplishment?
Well, it's funny. So I guess the first thing that pops in my head is, so my goal was to be like fishing, have my lobstering business basically to where it is by the time I'm 30. So to me, I feel like I hit that goal, and that's like literally the best thing. I can't even put into words. It's has been my dream since I was 7.
That's
that
amazing.
I would have a full license, a full crew, and get to go fishing almost every day. And that is what I'm doing, while simultaneously also having this whole other business. But that makes me feel so good, and it really has nothing to do with other people. It's like every day I can do better, and every year I can do better, and that's what has made lobstering so exciting. And I have done better every year, which just is more like proving to myself, that I'm in the right spot. Because sometimes it's so easy to like hear other people and be like, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. But on the boat, it doesn't matter. I'm out there with my crew, and it's not like I'm sitting there talking to people, caring about the opinions. I'm there hunting for lobsters. And if I come in with everyone's like, hell yeah.
Is there anything that's particularly dangerous about what you're doing? Because, of course, we're going to think of things like Deadliest Catch, which have, brought the, the craft of fishing kind of to light a little bit, but maybe in a different way. I feel like you're in water, there's always going to be some kind of danger there.
For us, compared to the guys out in the Bering Sea, we're like, our fishery is super lucky. At least like the inshore fishery, I come home every single night. Mm-hmm. So I assess the situation and make a smart decision based on like what my boat can handle, and what the weather conditions are and things like that. It is very dangerous, and it gets way more dangerous like this time of year towards the fall winter, where the weather's just unpredictable. We're getting towards ice and all of that stuff. Apparently when you work with big equipment, hydraulics and all that, it's dangerous. But my boat's only 28, the 3-foot crap rack, whereas those guys' boats, I've only seen them on TV, but they look like they've got to be like 50-foot plus boats with so I think what they're doing is a bit more dangerous, but I try really hard to stay aware that what I'm doing is very dangerous, and that, when it's a beautiful calm day, it's kind of easy to sometimes maybe forget that, every time you pull that lever, you're using hydraulics and someone's finger can get taken off. If you're not paying attention and that gets caught up, the buoy can literally knock someone out. Or there's all these different things. But I've been doing it for so long that it feels comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I was trained to be like hyper aware of everything that's going on, everything my boat's doing. I don't know everything, and I have a million more years to learn. But which is, I die every, yes. It's shocking whenever you see it.
Have you ever had any close calls, scary moments out on the water?
I have, but the biggest one for me wasn't, I wasn't commercial fishing. I was fishing in the Bahamas.
Oh, wow.
And this sport boat came out.
I have an animal having some issues over here. Sorry, I got distracted. So you were fishing in the Bahamas. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Yeah, no, the closest call I've ever had on a boat was me and my boyfriend were fishing in the Bahamas. He's from the Bahamas. And so we're just kind of enjoying ourselves. And this boat comes around this corner going, they had been going 50 plus miles an hour. And we're literally just putting along, trolling inside the harbor. So they were like super speeding. Pretty sure they were on drugs and stuff. We basically turned the boat like this. Like, I can't even really show it, but it's like we just turned the boat so that they ended up coming alongside us. And these guys were like standing on the edge of the boat, like looking down at us. Like I could have reached out and touched their boat. It was, but there's a lot more boat traffic down there than there is up here. But we're getting a lot more.
Really?
So part of my job, one of the most dangerous parts of our job is other people.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that's almost everything that you're doing. Even being out on the road, I'm like, I'm not worried about me or the people that are driving me around. It's always everybody else.
I'm like, I see what people are doing. I don't trust them.
Yeah, it's chaos out there anymore. I thought I had one more question for you. So a couple rapid fire questions. These are just some of the basics. In what I do, I talk a lot about having Moxxi and ambition. And what comes to mind when you think of the word Moxxi?
Oh, when I think of the word Moxxi, I feel like I think of one of those like roller skating queens who can do all the cool tricks and are just
and their Moxxi skates.
Probably why. I didn't even think of that.
Yep. Moxxi does absolutely have a, not affiliated, but they have a skate. It's a brand. And do you drink coffee?
Yes. Well, I drink a lot of caffeine. I've like toned it down a small bit on coffee because as a fisherman, I was out of control. I realized I would like fill up a bucket of coffee basically in the morning, and then out on the boat, I started bringing seltzer waters with me, so I can drink coffee in the morning, then coffee in the afternoon, but then put water in between.
That's probably a good thing. How do you take your coffee?
Very close to black, just a tinge of sugar and just a splash of cream.
Very nice. Last one. If you were to give any bit of advice to anyone that was trying to step up and do what you're doing, what would be the best advice that you could give?
The best advice I could give is probably reach out to me or other people that you know who are in the industry if you don't have a direct connection. Go down and start walking the docks, start talking to people. Don't give up, and definitely just when you're at the harbor, people are going to joke with you because that is just how it goes. Just let it roll off, joke right back with them, but keep showing up. They will pick the person who keeps showing up, regardless of the gender. There's a million guys who get the job and don't show up the next day for work.
Is it worse recently? Are you having trouble getting people to work? I'm so curious. Pretty centrally located here in New York. I don't go very far, especially these days. My husband has a coffee shop, and I have a coffee company, and man, the labor force is dwindled.
My food cart business was like we've gotten all this success, but we have not been able to, I built a gift shop this season, have not opened it because I couldn't find one person to be there a couple days a week. We had our food cart only open in the middle of the week because we could not find any more employees at all. With the whole lobster industry, my boyfriend is my sternman. Thank God. I'm just okay, you got to keep working for me for a little bit longer. There's guys who run incredible boats, incredible captains. They make good money. Cannot find a person. Cannot find.
It's crazy. How is it working with your boyfriend?
Well, it's funny. We work really well together, but it's hard because I think anytime you work with your significant other, it's hard. But we've been together for 6 years, and he's the greatest. I mean, he's the only person I want to fish with. But having a lot of opinions on a boat sometimes isn't good. But I just let him know who's captain when it wants me.
I love it. Oh, that was the other question that I had. What do you do with your lobsters other than, your own lobster rolls? Are you?
Most of my lobsters I wholesale, because we catch so much more than actually what I sell through the food cart. Mm-hmm. So most wholesale to our buyer who's right there at the harbor. And then sometimes I'll sell to individuals or restaurants or, anyone who reaches out. But mostly it's just that.
Nice. Do you think I missed anything? Is there any other information, background that you think that the public should have? Another reason that I love to do these fearless female things is especially when I'm finding and I'm able to speak to somebody that's doing something that's not super typical. You're certainly, there aren't a million fishermen out there, especially fisherwomen. There's got to be some things in your industry that are industry knowledge only.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's kind of weird because I grew up in it. Mm-hmm. So there's certain that
what would be surprising?
Gosh. See, and that's just so hard to answer because there's like plenty of parts of our industry that are like, I guess, surprising to someone who's maybe worked a desk job their mm-hmm. whole life, but someone who's been in labor, like done physical labor their whole life, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, none of us, at least not in my harbor, like nobody, literally I swear everyone rolls out of bed and grabs the clothes next to their bed and like doesn't brush their hair and comes down to the harbor. So it's like, I don't know, it's like that whole part that of normal jobs where you like get ready and you're like, it's more like, am I warm? Are these going to stay dry? Do I have my extra pair of socks? So sometimes I'll like look in the mirror or I'll be standing with a group of guys and I'm like, man, we look ridiculous. Like all of these tourists must think we just look like the scum of the earth right now. But we're all like probably making as much as they are and working really hard. But that to me is really funny. I've had a bunch of friends come down and they're like, oh my God, who are these people? I'm like, they're the nicest people. They're really nice. It's just like, our job is so disgusting. Mm. We're just always with like touching grease and bait and all that stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty much like fish is pretty much what you think it's like. It's really long days and kind of a lot more about like your endurance and like being able to kind of like keep your brain happy doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
I don't but you have to be able to put your head down for a long time and just like kind of work straight.
What kind of hours do you put in a day, would you say?
Well, so when I'm lobstering, I'll wake up about 45 minutes before sunrise, which changes throughout the season. But season I'll be up by 2:45, 3 o'clock, and then I'll go pretty much be at the harbor and on the boat and off the dock by like 4:30, 4:45. Again, really just depends on sunrise because so we're not legally allowed to start hauling our first pots, which are traps, until first light. So that kind of like it's really quickly throughout the season. But so I'll start then, and then I'll put in about 8 hours there. Then I, do whatever else needs to be done over there once we get off of the boat, and then I go to the food cart until the end of the day.
So what do you do to relax and unwind that's not work?
My biggest thing is that. Well, up until last year, pretty much, I leave every winter. I go on vacation every winter. I try to do a solid 4 months off, away.
Nice.
Just total, like, fishing, relaxation. My boyfriend's Bahamian, so kind of worked out really well for me that he also loves fishing as much as I do. So we just go and do different types of fishing and visit family and art. I went to school for art, so that's like my other favorite thing in the world. So I spend a lot of time in the winter doing that. And pretty much that helps me recoup. But by the time I'm done with that, I'm really ready to get back to it.
What's your medium?
So I have a degree in printmaking,
Nice.
but I have, since I left college and I realized that I didn't have space to buy a huge press or anything, I've gotten really into like smaller printmaking. Like I've made these cups this winter.
Oh, nice. Fish like a girl.
I did a bunch of resin jewelry. I've been doing t-shirts with infusible ink stuff. Yeah, I stay busy even
Do
when
you
I'm
have
not.
like an Etsy shop or something?
I don't have an Etsy, but I have a physical shop here in Belfast, and I will soon have the shop part of my website up. Well, I've got about another month of fishing, well, before things kind of slow down, and then I hope to have that up.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to include links to all of your websites and everything for you. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us today. I really appreciate it. You absolutely have a lot of moxie, and I really hope that your story inspires somebody else to show up every day.
Well, I do too. It's really nice to meet you. Thanks for thinking of me.
I honestly don't remember, because I'll spend some time sitting and looking for people, and I'll put them all on a card, and then when I have time I'll sit back and go through them. So I honestly don't remember if I came across you. Do you have TikTok? Maybe that was it. No.
So I just realized that I think I'm old because I don't know how to use TikTok. My sister make videos, and I'm like, I don't understand this.
Yeah, I have a 15-year-old, so she's my cheat sheet.
I have 2 high schoolers that work with me, and they're the most amazing people ever, and they're my like lifeline. I'm like, how do I open, like, what do I do? How does this work?
Yeah, I'll come across a video that somebody's done, and I'm like, how do you do that? I want to do that. Yeah, I can't figure it out. I'm lucky. I had to have my oldest son is 20, and he's very technologically inclined, and I had to have him come set this up to make this possible. And he literally like gave me step-by-step instructions. Push this button, then go to that button. That's the only way that this is possible.
It's so fast now. I'm like, okay, well, someone will tell me.
Oh yeah, there's always somebody to help you. You just got to be willing to ask for it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I am very thrilled to have had the opportunity to talk with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I will be back in touch to let you know exactly when this is going to be posted on the blog. And otherwise, it can be found forever and always on the Moxxi Coffee Company YouTube page.
Hey. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You have a fantastic rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.